You know, all the buzz around AI is about what it can do, right? All the amazing possibilities. But I think it's way more important and honestly more useful for a manager to talk about what it shouldn't do. Because really, knowing where to draw the line with generative AI, well, that's what's going to separate the smart leaders from the ones who get into real trouble.
So, let me ask you this. Have you ever hired a super impressive intern? I mean, top university, great resume, the whole package. And then on day one, you realize they have zero clue how your business actually works? Just think about that for a second. They're smart, they're confident, they say all the right stuff, but they are missing all the real-world context. Well, guess what? That brilliant, totally naive intern, that's a perfect metaphor for generative AI.
And this really gets to the core of the problem with our, let's call it, digital intern. See, the AI has swallowed a huge amount of general text from the internet. So yeah, it sounds authoritative, it can write well, it can summarize things like a champ, but here's the catch. It has never, ever worked at your company. It doesn't know your customers, your internal processes, or any of the little details that make your industry unique. And this is the critical part. It will just fill in the gaps with stuff that sounds plausible. Not what's true, just what sounds right.
So if there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this. For this technology, confidence and accuracy have nothing to do with each other. They are two completely different things. An AI can be 100% confident and be 100% wrong. And treating it like some kind of reliable expert instead of the very capable but very new beginner that it is, honestly, that's one of the biggest, most dangerous mistakes a manager can make right now.
Okay, so let's stick with our digital intern idea for a minute. With that in mind, let's start drawing some really clear lines in the sand. We're going to talk about the high stakes, absolute no-go zones, the kinds of jobs you would never give to a brand new hire on their first day, I don't care how great their resume is.
So category number one, any task where an error could be severe, and this is key, that error is really hard to detect. Think about things like interpreting legal documents, giving financial advice, or, heaven forbid, medical diagnostics. I mean, if a mistake in one of those areas could cause serious damage and you wouldn't spot it right away, that's a massive red flag. Huge.
And look, this isn't just some hypothetical what if. This actually happened. A lawyer used an AI to help write a legal brief, and the AI just made up 6 court cases. It invented them. They sounded totally plausible, cited perfectly, used all the right legal jargon, but they were completely fake. They did not exist. This is what people mean when they talk about AI hallucinations. And in a high-stakes setting like a courtroom, it's an absolute catastrophe.
All right, our second no-go zone. This one's about any decision that needs a human to be accountable for it. The logic here is pretty simple, right? An AI can spit out a recommendation, sure, but it can't take responsibility for what happens next. It can't own the outcome. And accountability? I mean, that matters. An algorithm just can't carry that weight.
And we're talking about some of the most critical calls a leader has to make. You know, hiring and firing someone, deciding on promotions and performance reviews, figuring out where to put millions of dollars of company money, or making a huge pivot in strategy. For every single one of those, you need a person. A name, who owns that decision and whatever comes from it. An AI can be a tool to inform the process, for sure, but it can never, ever be the one making the final call.
Okay, so we've talked about risk and accountability, but now let's pivot to a different kind of boundary. Because there are some areas where it's not just about what could go wrong, but about tasks that demand something more than just crunching data, tasks where uniquely human skills are, frankly, irreplaceable.
And that brings us to category number 3. Situations that require genuine human empathy. We're talking about having those tough conversations with an employee, managing a crisis when people are scared, or responding to a customer who's had a really, really bad experience. An AI might help you draft an email or prepare some talking points, but it should never be the one having that conversation.
You know, this quote just nails it. The technology is built to solve a problem. It optimizes for a resolution. But sometimes, maybe even most of the time, the customer on the other end doesn't just need their problem fixed. They need to feel heard. They need to feel understood. And solving a ticket and making someone feel heard, those are two completely different ballgames.
All right, our fourth and final no-go zone is any situation that's truly new, something with no precedent. At its core, you have to remember that AI is a pattern-matching machine. It's fantastic at looking at tons of past data and predicting what should come next based on those patterns. But what happens when you're in totally uncharted territory, a new market, a bizarre crisis that has no playbook? All of a sudden, its training data is worthless. It's like asking someone for directions in a city they've never been to. It'll still give you an answer, and it'll sound confident, but it's just guessing.
So, okay,
That's a lot to keep in mind, right? With all these risks, how do you actually make a smart call in the moment? Well, that's where this comes in. I'm going to give you a really simple, practical framework. Just 3 questions to ask yourself before you give a task to an AI. So before you greenlight any new AI project, just pause and ask these 3 things. First up, what happens if this goes wrong? And how fast would we even notice? This question right here is all about gauging your actual real-world risk. Second, does this thing require empathy or some kind of novel judgment? This helps you figure out if you're crossing that line into territory that's strictly human. And number 3, be honest with yourself. Are we doing this because it's actually better or just because it's faster? Look, speed is great, but not if you're trading away safety, accuracy, or the trust of your customers and your team.
When you boil it all down, every single one of these decisions really comes down to this one final question. You just have to ask yourself, is this a task for a tool or is this a task for a leader? Is this something you can give to that brilliant but clueless digital intern? Or is this a moment that demands the judgment, the empathy, and the accountability that only a human leader can provide? The managers who really figure out how to tell the difference, those are the ones who are going to win.